So, hi everyone, and welcome to the recording of the Lazy Days session. So, totally forgot to start the recording, and all we've done is painted a nice thick band of yellow across our canvas. It's about a hand width size on a 30 by 40 canvas. I've just used a primary yellow, any yellow will do. And I've just put a really thin coat. So I've spread my paint out really wide so that it will dry really quickly. So the next thing we're going to do is grab ourselves either a bit of orange or a bit of red, whichever you've got. So I'm going to put that on the palette next to my yellow colour. So you can see what I've got there. I've still got lots of my yellow left, but I've also got some red. So Max and Elise, are you guys ready to go? Oh, we've got someone who's joined us late. Let's have a look. We'll just wait for them to join in. Hi there. We have started. All we've done so far is paint a really thin band of yellow paint, so quite wide, but of really thin coat so that it dries really quickly. And now what we've done is grab a little bit of our red colour, or orange if you had it. I'm going to take a tiny, can you see I've just got like the tip of my brush with a tiny bit of paint, and I'm going to mix that in with my yellow, and that'll give me a lovely orange colour. So that's given me a nice kind of light orange. Don't want to use too much red, because all we'll end up with is a kind of like slightly paler red than we had, because red is a much stronger colour than our yellow. And then I'm going to paint another stripe on the right hand side of my yellow band here. And again, I'm not using masses of paint. I'm going to get a nice solid band of orange, and then I'm going to just rub my brush over my yellow a bit, and I'm going to get this lovely soft blended edge, which is what we want. We want a nice soft blend just there. Make sure that you've just got enough paint again to cover all of the white areas, so nothing's showing through. And then we're going to carry on our orange a bit further. Everyone okay? Yeah, awesome. So I'm going to grab a bit more of my orange, and I'm going to keep working to the right hand side of this, and then I'm going to grab a little bit more red, mix that, and can you see I've got a darker orange now, and a bit more red until I'm almost a red colour. And I'm just going to keep doing that, but still using really small amounts of paint. And then when I get to kind of this really dark orange, I'm just going to use red. So we've got a nice kind of rainbowy colour. And then, oh, and then what we can do, it's up to you. If you haven't got some pink paint, you can add a little bit of white just to do this top corner. If you have got some pink paint, then I'm going to grab some of that pink paint, and I'm going to work that just into the top right hand corner. If you don't, pink's not your thing, I know it's not everyone's, you don't have to use pink at all. So if anyone needs any help at all or wants me to recap anything, please let me know. So I've just got my pink paint and I'm just going to work in the very right hand corner, just brushing that down and into my red a little bit. When you've finished all of those colours, I'm just going to grab a tissue and wipe my brush out and then wash it out. And the reason that I do that is because if you keep wiping your brush before you wash it, you stop your paint water from getting all kind of gunky and turning that horrible brown colour, and it keeps it a bit cleaner. It means you don't have to change it so often. Oh, I can see the hands of some very glamorous assistants going on there. It's always good to have a glamorous assistant. Is she always this silly? Is your Max Elise, is your mum always this silly? She embarrassing mum? Everyone getting on okay? Yeah, fantastic.
I still need a bit more time to do the pink.
Yeah, no worries, there's no rush. So, no rush at all. I'll go at you guys' pace. When you have done that, so carry on if you're going, when you have done that, if you're ready to start to move on, you can get your next set of colours out ready. So if you are going to do a rainbow like me and not change it to some other colours, I'm going to go this way. So what colours do you think make green up? Anyone know? You can unmute yourselves and just shout at me.
Yellow and blue.
Lily's pulling a face. She couldn't unmute herself quickly enough. Yeah, that's right. Yellow and blue. So do you remember when we did the orange, we used a really tiny amount of the red to make it, to stop it getting too strong too quickly? We're going to do the same because yellow is not the strongest of colours. And if you add too much blue too quickly, it will just go from yellow to blue without you getting the green step in between. So if you're still painting, carry on. If you're ready to move on, just give me a thumbs up and let me know you're ready. Okay, 1, 2. Awesome. Well, there's 3 guys who I can see. You've all given me a thumbs up, so I'm going to have to go with you lot. So you can use a green rather than a blue if you've got it. So the good thing about using a green paint rather than the blue is it's not quite so strong, so you don't have to worry too much about you getting too strong a step between them all. So first thing you need to do, so we've been using these hot colours up here, and they're the opposite colours to our green. And that means if we haven't washed our brushes out 100% perfectly, we're not going to get green, we're going to get sludge. And we don't want that. So make sure your brushes are super, super clean before you do the next bit. And I'm going to give myself some more of my yellow. And then you can either go with blue or green. I'm going to go with blue. Ideally, if you've got a blue that's like a sky blue colour, so if I show you what I mean, we've got, so this is ultramarine, which is like a dark purpley colour. And this, if you hold it next to it, is called cerulean blue. And any kind of light sky blue colour like this, it could be called sky, it could be called turquoise, it could be called cyan or cerulean. Oh, that's a very pretty colour. Lovely. Yeah, that'll be really nice. You'll go kind of more pastel-y.
Everyone missed him.
Yeah, it's literally called sky blue.
Do you know what? I had that paint. I know, it's a lovely colour, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to go more pastel-y, you can use a pastel blue. If you want to keep it really strong and primary, you can go with the slightly sort of deeper blue.
I mean, he might get on, but he'll never get back from that. And that'll be in his mind, so he'll be like,
Oh, see, I'm just going to mute you again because you hear Dad talking in the background. So, just like we did before, we're going to use lots of yellow, but only a tiny bit of our blue. So, little dip, just the tiny tip, whether you're using green or blue, doesn't matter. And we're going to mix that into our yellow. And what we want is like a limey green colour, just like this. And what we're going to do, so we're going to go in this direction this time. So towards the opposite corner, we're going to we're going to paint a band, then add a little bit more blue and a bit more blue and a bit more blue until we get right the way over here and we're just to pure blue. So I'm going to add another little bit of water. So I'm painting with my paint about the same consistency as yogurt. So not so thick that it's like meringue where lumps stand up. We want it to sit flat, but still not be as wet and watery as watercolour. I've got a lovely lime green here, and I'm going to paint myself a band. So there's no white showing between the yellow and my lime green here, just like this. Keeping the same shape of my rainbow, because we've kind of seen like the right hand half of our rainbow. And when I've got a good coverage, but without drowning my paper, I'm going to then rub my brush over the left hand half of my yellow band. So I get this lovely soft colour change between the two. So don't reload your brush up with paint when you do that, because you'll end up with just a very thick lime green band. What you want to do is paint with just a really small amount of paint and really push that paint around really far. And that will give you a lovely soft change between the colours. Oh, I can see some fantastic rainbows coming on. Oh, Lily, beautiful. Oh, fantastic, Josie. Beautiful colours. So I'm going to keep going. Lillian's got all ahead of me and has filled in her whole page, but I'm going to carry on. So I'm going to just add a little bit more blue to my paint each time I do another band. And we're going to get sort of greener, and then we're going to get more blue until we get to just using the blue by itself. So I've got a nice sort of jade green now that I'm using. And just like before, I'm going to rub it into my lime green. And then I'm going to add another bit more blue. So I'm sort of getting towards dark green now. And I'm just going to keep doing that. So I'm almost a pure blue. There we go. I'm starting to go a bit straight. I've lost my curve. That's no good. This is where I also get very dangerously close to my original painting. I have to try and make sure I don't get any paint on it. So I got to a really nice blue colour. So this is my pure cerulean blue now. And what you can do, if you want to and you've got it, you can switch. So do you remember I showed you that ultramarine kind of purpley blue earlier on? I'm going to switch over and use a little bit of that. All these colours that we've used, I'm going to keep a little bit back on my palette. So it doesn't matter if you've used all of your colours up. We're going to use some darker tones down here for our plants a little bit later on. But it doesn't matter if you have used it up, you can mix more up. So I'm going to switch over now. I've got my purpley ultramarine colour. And my last little corner, I'm going to paint in that. So, and then I'm going to blend it with my big thick brush into my cerulean blue. So there we go. That's our rainbow background done. Just like before, I'm going to give my brush a really good wipe out on some kitchen roll. Make sure my brush is nice and clean. I don't really need this one again, but I do like to make sure it's nice and clean for later on, for when I'm painting llamas later on. So when you've got your rainbow all done, you can give me a thumbs up and let me know. Well, I know you're done, Lillian, because you're super speedy. But if you don't rush. So get it how you want it. If you've kind of done your bands quite thin and you've found that you've got a big gap, you can add, if you had pink up here, you can add some of your pink to your ultramarine and carry on down here and you get a lovely purple. Or if you've got purple paint, you could just carry on and do a bit more purple, and then you could actually even carry on and start repeating the colours that you've done up here, so you've almost got like a double rainbow. Oh, lovely. That's a beautiful rainbow. Oh, let's see, Max. Oh, awesome. You two are such good painters. So we just wait for the others to catch up with you speedy ones. So the good thing about being speedy is that it gives your paper a little bit longer to dry off, so that you can you know that you're ready to start on your slough soon. So what I'll do I'm just going to talk you through what we're going to do next. Well, so because I can see Josie's still painting, and I don't know about the rest of you guys. So the next thing we need to do is you see our branch here, and what's really special about our branch is that it's really thin over this side on the left hand side, and it gets thicker as it goes across, and it's really thick over here. And when you're painting something like a branch or a tree, you'll notice that near the trunk of the tree, the main kind of body bit, all the branches are thicker, and as they go away, they get thinner and thinner. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sort of have a little bit of a think about how trees grow, and we're going to go thinner on the left hand side, and we're going to go thicker on the right hand side. So when you're ready to do that, if you've got some brown paint, you can grab yourself a little bit of brown. I'm using a colour that's called burnt umber. So this is a really normal standard brown colour that you get.
I have that exact bottle of that exact paint.
Yay, the works.
Yep.
Yeah, we
I've
love
got him as well.
yeah, we love the paint from the works because it's nice and cheap, and
And it's actually good.
it is very good. Yeah.
Actually,
So you can imagine the amount of paint I get through in a month. So yes, it's very good. If you're doing lots of paint, like lots of paintings, and you're going to sell them and stuff, it's worth getting like the nice expensive paint. But for these sessions, while we're still learning, cheap paint is good. So Josie, are you still going with your rainbow?
I'm on this last tiny bit of the corner.
Awesome, no worries. So when are you okay if we start doing our branch?
Oh yeah, that's fine. I just catch up in a couple seconds.
Cool, no worries. So I'm going to use this brown colour. I'm going to use it again later on for some different things, but I'm going to use just this brown colour. And I've got what's called a 1/2 inch flat brush. So can you see, if I turn it one way, it's wide. If I twist it, it goes narrow. And I'm
Amy,
one of these. Yeah?
is it burnt umber?
Yes, an umber. So, but any kind of brown is good. So if you've got a light brown colour and you want to use that, but it's too light because remember we've got to paint our slough in yet, you can always add a little tiny bit of black to it to kind of thicken it up. So I've got my brown or burnt umber colour. I'm just going to wet my brush a little bit and load up my brush. But what I want to do, if I hold this up, I'm going to scrape it on the side of my plate, and I'm going to give myself 2 little planning marks. Hello, we're about half an hour in. I am recording this. Do you want to do the recording later, or I can catch you up? It's not a problem.
Are we late? Sorry.
No, that's okay, don't worry. I am recording the session, so Ivy, I can send you the recording, or I can catch you guys up as we go.
Oh, I thought it was 8:30. Was it 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh goodness. Okay. What do you want to do, Emily? Do you want to quickly catch up? I'm sure we can do that. So it looks like it's dark blue, light blue, green, yellow,
So,
orange.
Start with the yellow, do a wide band of the yellow, and then
Okay.
what I've done is add sort of a bit more red up to the right hand side, cleaned out my brush, and then added a little bit more blue to the left hand side to give us this rainbow.
That's fine. We can catch up. Sorry, Tony.
That's okay. Just ask any questions if you need to. Okay, I'm just going to sort of mute you for a second while I talk to everyone else. Okay. So what we're going to do is get this branch in, and we need to kind of give ourselves a little bit of help with our start and our finish. So if you look at the left-hand side of your paper, and if you were to divide that into 3, there would be, if you were to fold it, there would be a fold here and a fold here. So if I move my hand so you can see, I can't quite stretch my fingers out that far, but where that top fold is, I'm going to give myself a really thin little brown mark.
One thing.
Yeah.
I do have the burnt umber, but that's in the conservatory. So would burnt sienna be okay?
Yeah, that's a good colour. It's just a slightly more redder kind of brown colour.
Okay.
No worries. And then if I imagine on the right hand side of my paper, I folded it in half, so that would be a fold in the middle, and then in half again, that would give me a quarter, and I'm going to go like this with my little dot at a quarter. And then with my paintbrush, I'm going to use it with the thin side, and I'm going to give myself a bit of a wobble. Paint's dried out a little bit. Little bit of a wobbly line. My paint's definitely dried out. Here we go. So not massively wobbly, but a little bit sort of wavy. And I've given myself, so that's my first bit of my branch. And then I'm going to go over this again with my brown colour. I'm going to leave the left-hand side, and then as I come across the middle, I'm going to paint again and make my branch a bit thicker. So obviously my tree, my trunk of my tree is on the right-hand side because the right-hand side is thicker than the left-hand side. Make sure I've got a nice flat colour. And then it's up to you if you find it easier with a thinner brush, a smaller one. I'm going to put 2 little branches coming off. So I've got to be careful because I don't want it to end up kind of like sticking into my sloth's head. So I'm going to put one right in the middle. And just like with our big branch, smaller branches coming off are thin at the tips and get a bit thicker as it gets up near the branch, the main branch. And then I'm going to come over to the right hand side and I'm going to put another one on top. And just like before, thin at the tip and thicker near the main part of the branch. How's everyone got on with that? Okay. So give me a thumbs up if it's all okay. Yeah? So has everyone's background dried, or are they still a little bit on the wet side?
Mine's dry.
Yeah? Max and Elise, are your backgrounds dry? They feel nice and dry, or are they still a bit wet? Okay, bit iffy. That's fine. We can leave those for a little bit longer. what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do some bits and pieces where we do one bit over on one side, and while that's drying we're going to do a bit on another side. So we need our background to be dry before we put our sloth in. So you see all these plants that come along the bottom, we're going to paint in, oh fantastic JC, we're going to paint in some of these plants and flowers, and we're going to just start off with our blue ones, and then we're going to come back and do some of our sloth. So if you've got some of that sort of darky blue colour that we started off with, you can use some of that. If you haven't, you could just go with any dark kind of bluey tone, cold tone colours. If you want to, you could go lighter. So we just need them to be a different colour to the colour we're painting over. So it's your painting, so you can tweak them however you want. And I'm going to, you know, that small brush that we were using over here for our branches, I'm going to grab one of those again. I'm going to use this and a thicker brush in a minute. So I've got my darker purple, darker blue colour. And down here in the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to do some stems coming up. Does that show up? Let's have a look. Because sometimes, not really. Okay, I'm going to add a tiny spot of black to it so you can see it. Sometimes I can see the different colours, but it doesn't show up on the camera. So I'm going to take a bit of my blue and move it over here. I like to use paper plates because then I'm a bit lazy and I don't have to wash them up afterwards. So I'm going to do this again so you guys can see it. So I'm going to do, can you see that? That's better. So I'm going to do a couple of stems coming up like this. And I'm just going to use these in the blue area that I've painted. And then these are going to be, we're going to put some leaves on these, but then next to it, we're going to have some kind of grassy ones. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to my brush, scrape off any extra bits, and then I'm going to do some nice pointy grass shapes. So these are lines where I press slightly harder down at the bottom of the paper, and as I come up, I'm going to gently press down less hard. So I'm going to slowly, ever so gently, start to lift my brush off of my paper, and as I pull my brush away, you get these slightly points, just like grass. So, and I'm going to do a few of these. So it's good to practice having that skill where you can pull your brush off of your paper and change A, how thick your line is, and B, make it go to a point. Everyone, how's you found that? All okay? Yeah? So it's definitely worth practicing that, because that will help you with your painting a lot. Once you've done those, give me a thumbs up. Yeah, cool. Okay. Have you got a sort of bigger, rounder brush at all? So one that's a bit chunkier. So we had a little thin one, and now we're going to grab a big, kind of slightly chunkier one. If you haven't got a bigger one, you can still do this with your thin brush, but it's a really good way of practicing for painting flowers to do this. So to paint flowers or round leaves like this, what you do is you load up, so I'm going to just grab myself a bit more of that paint. You load up your brush. So normally we try not to have lots and lots of paint on our brush, but we're going to load it up a bit more now. And then I'm just going to just take the very tip of the paint off. And to do our leaves, what we do is we line up the point of our brush with our stem and we just press down. We're going to pull the brush ever so slightly and then lift it off, and it gives us this lovely round leaf shape. So when you're painting daisies, this is a really good way to get a daisy petal. So, and I'm just going to go along on where I put my stalks and just keep doing that. Just keep pressing down with my brush and then taking it off, and I get this nice kind of round petal shape. So yeah.
Mine isn't going round, it's just becoming long. Is it okay if I manually paint the round shape?
Yeah, you can do. Are you using a big chunky brush?
It's not big and chunky, but it is bigger than my small brush.
Okay, so the other thing to do, try adding a little bit more water to your paint. You might find that it sort of sits a little bit better. So
Okay.
do my last couple. There we go. So we got some nice leaf shapes. We've got some grassy shapes. And then I'm going to ask you all a question. Again, is your painting nice and dry now? Yeah? Excellent, because this is kind of the slightly boring bit, and doing our slough is much more interesting, but we need to give the background time to dry, which is why we do the plants. Hope, shush, shush. It's just the cat, shush.
Was it okay if I go upstairs for a bit? Yeah. Do you want me to close the windows?
Okay.
Emily, how are you getting on? Okay, awesome. So let me know when you get to kind of the next step after doing the background, and I can talk you through that if you need to. Oh, James, are you doing it as well? Yeah, fab. So I was saying I've got another session at 10:30. Oh, they've got the hairdryer out, so they can't hear me. So we're going to work on our slough next. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically, when you paint, you break or draw, you break things down into our simple shapes. So if I was to go from the tip of the toes of our slough and I went round his back, up past his head, and then I carried on going like that, what does that look like? What shape's that?
An oval.
It is an oval, yeah. And so that's the first of our basic shapes. So we're going to basically, I'm going to use a little bit of our brown mixed with some white, and I'm going to paint myself half of an oval. So a kind of a semicircle. We're going to go round here like this, all the way up to the branch. And you want this to be quite big. So you don't want a teeny tiny one in the middle. You're going to go right the way round and back up. So things to think about with this though is you can see he's got his arm coming down. So we need to make sure we leave a little bit of space for his arm. I'm going to use the same brown that I used for my branch up here, but I'm going to add some white to it. So I'm going to give myself some white paint, and I'm going to, doesn't really matter so much with this one which brush you use. I'm going to stick, just because I find these really handy, to my little 1/2 inch flat brush, but any brush will do, because this is just us doing our planning marks. So, and I'm going to mix up a bit of brown and a bit of white. So you could change this if you wanted to, if you wanted like a grey sloth, even, I mean, if you wanted a pink sloth, you could do that. So you just need to have some different shades of colours to work with. So if you were doing a pink, say you were doing a pink sloth, for example, or a blue one, those would look cool. Then, or actually you could do a whole, like a solid black one, that would work as well. So I'm going to do my semicircle here, and it's going to go from this side of the branch round and up to this side. So I'm going to scrape off all the extra paint on the side of my palette, and I'm going to go round like this, getting a good half an oval or a semicircle, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to go just over this branch there. So take your time, make sure you've got a really kind of good line without too many kind of wobbles and stuff. If you find that your line's not terribly good, add a little bit more water to your paint and you'll find that you get a smoother line. So mine's got a little bit wobbly as well, so I'm going to just go over it like that. There we go. So give me a thumbs up when you've done that. Emily, have you guys caught up already? Have you caught up already? You're like the fastest painters in the history of history. Oh my goodness. So I was saying to the others, I've got another free session at 10:30 with the llama, which I think you guys probably have already done. But if you wanted to do, if you had nothing else to do and wanted to do that, you can join me. So if once everyone's done that, we've got our semicircle. We now need to work out where our body's going to be. And can you see I've got this line that's going to come cut across, and it's just a little bit below halfway. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm just going to divide this kind of just in half. If you're not sure exactly where you want to put your line, put it a little bit lower than you think, just because then you've got the space to go higher. Whereas if you put it too high to start off with, you're then going to be like, oh no, I put it in the wrong space and I can't make it any smaller. So whenever you're doing that, if you're planning and you're not sure, go a little bit thinner than you think you want. Okay, we've got another circle coming up. So this head here is going to be another circle. So it's roughly about 1/3 of the body. So if you divided your circle here into 3, it would be roughly 1/3, and we want it to go up and over the top of our brown branch. So I'm going to go round, up, back down again, and into this circle. And that will then give me a better idea of where I'm going to put my body as well. So we want those to meet up. So that's what I was saying about, it's always better to go a bit lower than you think you want. And then these are planning marks, so you can change these as you go. That's the point of them. And then I'm going to fill these two bits in with my brown paint. Particularly, I'm going to do the head first. So just like we did with the background, don't be tempted to go too thick with the paint, because we need that to dry kind of this, well, today rather than next week. And then I'm going to fill in my body.
I once had a painting that I did. I don't remember what paint I used or what it was, but it took like 2 weeks to dry, and I just didn't know why. I didn't put thick amount of paint.
I would guess it was probably oil paint then. So
I don't know.
did it sound a bit funny?
Well, I don't really have any oil paint, so I don't think it was oil paint.
Oh, okay.
But maybe it was just it wasn't bright enough for it to dry fast.
Maybe. I paint quite a lot with oil paints, and that tends to it can take anything up to a month to dry. So I've got a painting actually that I did not long ago, and the thick paint is still wet, and I painted it about a month ago. So how's everyone getting on? Awesome. So before we finish off our sloth's kind of leg and arm down here, we're going to put these background ones in. So these are a bit paler. So I'm going to just add a bit more white. I'm going to keep some of my brown that's this colour and then make myself a paler brown. We don't need lots of this because we're just going to use it for those legs and nothing, front leg and back leg and nothing else. And the reason we're painting these paler, because I think people always get into the habit of when they paint animals, they paint back legs, like the legs that are furthest away, they always want to paint them darker. And that kind of works if an animal is standing up and the legs are going down, but when they're hanging and they're not in shadow, to make them look like they're further away, and this is the same with landscape painting, you paint things paler. So I'm going to paint this one because it's going behind the branch. I'm actually going to paint this not over the top, just up to it. So I'm going to paint a curved line going up like this. And just like our tree branch, arms and legs, they're thicker near the body and they get thinner as they go up. So I'm going to make my sloth's arm and leg thicker up near its body and thinner up towards the end. So I've got a whole leg to go in here yet. We've got our guide, but we're gonna paint this next to it. So this is our other back leg. Again, thicker near the body and thinner near the branch. I've got a little bit of a curve on it as well. Like that. And then that's all we needed that colour for, which is why I said we didn't need loads of it. And then we're going to go back to the darker brown that we were using before. We like that colour. And then we're going to put our other two arms on, or legs, should I say, our sort of front arm and our front leg. So this one is in front of us and it's going to be on this side of the tree. So that's why it wraps over. And just like before, we're going to come down and be thicker near the body and thinner up near the branch, and then I'm going to just do a little tiny bump on the top there. And then I'm going to do the same hanging down. So we want to make sure these are the same kind of size. So you might find it easier if you use your thumb and finger and give yourself kind of how long your leg is, and then come down here and repeat it. So I'm going to put in my little line here, and then I'm going to do the same again. So narrower where it hangs down and further away, and a bit thicker up near the shoulder. Just like that. So just like before, give me a thumbs up when you've done that bit. Cool. Oh, you okay, Lillian?
Do we need the light brown for the face?
So what we're going to do is use just white for the face and the dark brown that we use in the branch.
Okay.
But if you want to use it that light up, if you've mixed loads and loads of it and you don't want to waste it, you can also use it over here for the face. But we're going to leave our sloth to dry off properly before we do that. So we're going to do some more of our flowers across the top and the bottom, giving him time to dry off, and then we're going to come back and put his face and his claws on. So cool, I can see some thumbs up.
I had to put 2 coats on the sloth since the first coat was a bit see-through.
Okay.
So mine's probably going to take quite a while to dry.
That's no problem. So what we'll do, we'll carry on doing some more plants across the bottom, and that'll give him some time to dry off. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to, just like I did before, I'm going to use some green, and I'm going to, next to where my blue plants were at the bottom, I'm going to paint in some different green ones. And then I'm also going to paint some green ones up here in the top left-hand corner, so that we've got we've got our sort of rainbow is shining over the top of our plants, and they're going to be different colours as they go across. So just like before, you can use your thin brush, you can use your big thick round brush for your colours, for your leaves and things like that, and just have a bit of an experiment with different shape leaves and stuff. So I'll talk you through the different ones I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is give myself a nice dark green colour. So I'm going to use some of my blue, I'm going to mix it in with some of I've got some lime greeny colour left over. I can add a little bit of ultramarine to it if you want to make it a bit darker so it stands out. But it's a darker, definitely a darker green than I was using before. So you might find that your paint has started to dry out a little bit. If that is the case, just add a little bit more water to it, and it will help to make your paint a little bit more runny and move a little bit better. So I could do some long kind of, is that showing? Let me see if that's showing up on the screen for you. Not really, let's make it a little bit darker then. So I can see it, but for you guys looking on the camera, it's not showing up. So let's try that. So I've still got a green colour, it's just a darker one. And I'm going to put in some, yeah, that's showing now. Put in some stems, although I think it looks blue rather than green. This is definitely green. And when you want to do stuff that's a little bit finer, have your paint, not watery like watercolour, but just a little bit wetter. So I've got another stalk for a plant there. And I can go and put in some, so I could put in some more sort of grassy ones. You don't have to stick to these colours either. You can, if you want to paint sort of daisies or flowers on them, you can do. And then I'm going to do one more shaped plant. So I'm going to do kind of like I'm going to do something like this big fan one down here. So I'm going to do a couple of those. So I'm into my yellow colour now. If you end up getting over to sort of like more orangey colours, then wait for and do those with the red tones that we're going to do in a little bit. I'm then going to switch up and do across the green and the yellow up here. So I'm still using my thinner brush. And just like before, I'm doing different shapes to some of my different leaves. And then I'm going to switch over. I'm going to go back to my sort of slightly rounder brush. And just like I did before, I'm going to dip that in my paintbrush. And then where I want to put my big kind of chunky round leaves, I'm going to just press those down onto like that, onto my plants to make my leaves. And then I've got this big fan one up here, so I'm going to do some that are just fanning out from the top. If you don't get a nice round top to your plant, it could be that your paint's starting to dry out and you need to add a bit more water. So you might find that that will help, or it could just be that you haven't quite got enough paint on your brush. So I'm doing this big kind of fanning out one. And then I'm going to do another one of those over here. So I'm using the same technique and the same brushes to do all these different shapes plants. So it's just changing and having a bit of an experiment with all the different shapes that you can do to get different plants. So my question I have now for everyone is your sloth dried? No?
Nope.
No. Oh, that's a very...
Just a tiny bit.
Thumbs down for everyone. Okay, in that case, what we're going to do is we're going to carry on doing the rest of our plants. and giving him time to dry off a little bit. So I'm going to switch over. I'm going to use reds now. I'm going to go from red across to some of my dark brown, and I'm going to put some more different plants in. And I'm going to do it in exactly the same way as I've done down there, just you're going to use different colours and slightly different, a slightly different brush for this one here. Okay, so make sure your brush is nice and clean before you switch over and do this. Because like before, we're switching from one side of the colour wheel over to the other. So green's on one side and on the opposite side is red. And if you mix those two colours together, you just get a kind of sludgy brown colour. And we don't want that. We want nice bright colours on this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to my red and maybe do some more grassy shapes. So these ones are kind of a bit more clumped together than our green ones, but you've got these points on them. And then I can do some nice long stems coming down on the ones next to it. So I'm going to have these more like kind of willow leaves. So I'm going to do 3 of those. I can probably get one more red plant in here before I need to change over. And now I'm going to use a bit of red and brown to make a darker red. And I'm just going to put in some more branches. And then we can put whatever leaves we want to on these. So I'm going to stick with my big chunky brush for some of these. Just like this. And for these ones here that are going to go here, I'm going to switch over. You know that 1/2 inch flat brush that we used earlier? I'm going to use just that. I'm going to load just the tip up and I'm going to press down like this as we go. And the wider the brush you have, the longer those leaves will be. So this is a 1/2 inch flat. Just pressing the tip down on the paper, and I'm getting quite short ones. I can show you if I've got a wider one. Let me grab my bigger wide one and show you. You can do it with a bigger one as well. So let's do that here. So you can see I've got wider, different shape leaves there. So depending on the brush, that will depend on your leaf, and you can try lots of different brushes and get lots of different effects with this. It's really good having a bit of a experiment and play with different ways to use different brushes that aren't the normal way of using them. There we go. We've got some nice dangling ones as well now. So the next thing, when you guys are ready, if you want to give me a thumbs up, cool. And the next colour you're going to use is going to be white. So if you want to get yourself out a little bit of white, we're only going to use the white here and for our claws. So if you're still painting your flowers, carry on doing that, that's no worries. If you're ready to move on, then give me a thumbs up. Oh, hang on a second, let's have a look. I can put this into gallery so I can see. Oh, fantastic. Is he dry? He looks dry. Josie, is he dry? No? Oh, okay. Have you got a hairdryer?
No.
Ah, okay. You're going to have to just blow on it then. So don't worry. What we can do, Josie, if you just watch this next bit, and then while yours dries, and then I can come back and help you at the end when yours is dry, okay?
Mine's not dry either.
Okay. Is everyone else's still wet as well? Yeah? Okay. In that case, we will not do that bit for a second. What we can do our claws, and we can also paint in our wording while we're waiting. So I'm going to go back to my thin brush that I was using earlier. Make sure it's nice and clean. And you know, we got that white out. Using our thin brush, we're just going to go and put 3, because Sloth's claws are actually really long.
Easy.
Like that. So we're going to put 3 coming out from our lower arm down here. We're going, so this back, the 2 back ones, if you think that if that was the branch, their claws would be holding on over the top. So we're going to just do 3 lines coming over the top like that and just sticking out slightly above our branch. So the same with our back leg. So we're going to do 3 long claws over the top so that leg is wrapped around kind of over like this. And then finally this leg here, so that's wrapping the other way. So we're just going to do 3 circles because our claws are wrapping over, so we can't see lots of them. When you've done your claws, give me a thumbs up again. 1, 2, 3, 4. You okay, James? Okay, so carry on doing your claws if you're still doing them. So this bit is totally optional. If you want to write your word on, you can do. If you want to leave it as is, I know some people like to leave it as a picture without the words on. What we're going to do is paint. So I've called mine Lazy Days, but you can call this, I've done this session before and people have kind of like named it Fred the Sloth and My Lazy Brother and all sorts of stuff like that. So you can change the words if you want to. I'm going to keep with my thin brush that I've been using for my claws. And you can pretty much pick any colour that you like. And I'm going to paint Lazy going up here and then Days going over here. If you've gone really big with your plants, then you can paint over the plants. It's better to paint over the plants than over the sloth body. So I am going to go, I think I'm going to go blue across the top. I think that'll look really cool. So I'm going to add a bit more water to my paint to get it a little bit more fluidy, because that's much better for painting lines. And then I'm going to paint myself a big L like that. So you can see I'm kind of wrapping it around my sloth's head. So, and then a big A. I'm doing them in capital letters. And then a Z. So again, I'm going to follow my sloth's head round like that. And then I'm going to have a Y coming up like that, going over my plants. So the important thing is to make sure that they're all roughly the same size, like that. And then you can keep with the same colour, or you can switch colours down in the lower bit. And then just like I wrapped Lazy around the head, I'm going to wrap Days around the body. So making sure that they're similar kind of size. I've got my D, I've got my A, I've got my Y, and then I've just got my S. So the best way to do an S is to do it in 2 halves. So I'm going to do my top half first and stop. And then I'm going to do my bottom half. It just gives you a little bit of a chance to kind of realign your brush and tidy it up before you move on. So once you've done that, give me another thumbs up. If anyone's struggling with anything or it hasn't gone how they would like, don't forget to always just unmute yourself and ask any questions. Or Max, is it nearly bedtime?
What time is it where you are?
Well, I'm in England, so it's 9:20 here.
Okay.
So where are you, Josie?
I'm also in England and it's 9:21.
Oh, okay.
Where are you?
So, Max,
Max?
thank you.
Go. Otherwise, you'll just fire down and make a
Do
spot.
you know where you are?
Where do we live? Take your turn.
You're going to show?
France.
Are you in France?
Where do we used to live?
In Hong Kong.
I see. Last time I think I spoke to your dad, I think he was in Hong Kong.
Yeah, we were, weren't we? We went last August.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you can wash.
Yeah, more space, close
Yeah.
to family. They still can't get to see family.
I'm not here to talk to you. That's fine.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
Once he starts, he won't stop.
I know.
Are you? Who said that?
Did she?
What did I say?
Oh, whoa.
It's a unicorn.
We're doing a unicorn tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Okay, if you want.
Do you want to show her what you've done?
Yeah, let's have a look. I love to see how everyone's got on. Oh, wow.
What about yours, Max? Are you showing yours?
I don't know if
Hold it up. You didn't want to do any writing, it's okay.
Look.
Wow. Oh, fantastic.
You're
good at
natural.
this. Absolutely. Let's have a look at Emily's. Oh, wow, Mum's doing it too. Fantastic. Oh,
You can see everyone.
good. Wow, those are some seriously sharp claws on yours, Jane. So, what we need to do is actually give our sloth a face. So, what we want is hopefully your face has dried. If it hasn't dried, just I'm going to talk through it. Just listen to what I kind of say, and then when I'm recording, I'll just go over it again for everyone. So if I've gone too fast for everyone, don't worry. Once the record, oh, lovely, Josie, fantastic. So what we want to do is we're going to do this kind of. It's like a circle, but it's like someone's pushed down in the middle of it. So what we want to do is paint a circle with this little dip in the middle, and then we're going to paint around this shape where the eyes are, and then we're going to pop those in. So I'm going to go back to my thin brush, so which is over here. And I'm going to, so do you remember with our legs and our body, we did some guide marks to help us. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're not going to fill it in straight away. We're just going to do the guide marks. So what I want to do, I'm going to do half of my circle. So I'm going to make sure I leave some of the head around. So I'm going to come in a little bit. I'm going to go just, so it's almost like a big smile.
Oh, it's kind of like a round heart.
It is like a round heart. That's a perfect way to describe it. Yeah. Like, so it's like it's a heart, but then someone's kind of chopped the bottom pointy bit off. So I've done, it's almost like a big smile on the head of my sloth. And then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to join those up, but I'm going to do like my little up, down into a dip. So like the top of a heart. And then I'm going to come across like this. So it's up to you how big or small you make that compared to the your sloth's head. You can make it quite big and wide. You can fill most of it, or you can make it quite small. So these are kind of not meant to look realistic, so you can adapt them to however you want. The next thing we need to do is do these two little cutout bits. So they're kind of like if you stuck your finger over and draw around it, that's the kind of shape that we want. So the thing we want to make sure is that these are the same sides. So they're the same size, same thickness, all that kind of stuff. And then all the rest of it we can fill in with our white. So you might find, depending on which paint you're using, you might find that you need more than one coat with this, but that's okay. We can come back and do that in a minute. So we've got this funny kind of round heart shape. So if your paint's still a bit wet and you're picking up the brown that's underneath it, you've got a choice. You can either blend it in and it'll give you this really pale brown colour, or you just get your first coat on, let that dry, and then go back to it. But the important thing with that is letting the first coat dry, otherwise you'll just pull the paint back off. I'm going to use the brown that I used for this branch for those two finger marks that we put in earlier. So this is the dark brown. So it's the same brown as we've used for the body, but without the white added. And I'm going to go over our guideline at the edge and just give me my two little brown marks where the eyes go.
I found my burnt umber.
Oh, fantastic. Did you nip out to the conservatory to get it, or did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, it wasn't hiding there the whole time. That's normally what happens to me. I go and dash around and grab a new paint tube and then find the old one hiding somewhere. So I've got my white face and I've got my two brown stripes on the eyes now. So if you're not waiting to do a second coat of the white for the face and you're ready to go straight on with it, what you can do now is you paint in your nose, mouth and eyes. If you are going to wait and give everything a second coat, if you want to just watch me do this, and then when I finish the recording, I can talk you through it again. I'm going to go back to my thin brush from earlier. And using just black, in between the two brown marks that we did for the eyes, I'm going to do an oval. So we want quite a big oval like that, just sit there. I'm then going to do two round spots for our eyes inside those brown marks. And then underneath my nose, quite close up, I'm going to do a big smile like that. And that is how we do our sloth. So I'm going to keep going on the live session and help anyone who needs it. If you're doing the recording, I just want to say thank you for painting with me and hope you guys have enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll see you for one of our other sessions. So the guys who I'm painting live with, stay online and I'm going to have a look and give you any help that you might need. So thanks for watching the recording. Bye.